Have you ever walked into a busy coffee shop, scanned the room for a seat, and found your eyes resting on that one person sitting by the window, completely alone, with no laptop, no phone, and just a half-empty mug for company? In our hyper-connected, notification-saturated world, there's an almost instinctual urge to feel a flicker of pity for them. We wonder if they've been stood up, or if they're going through a rough patch, or perhaps they're just that lonely person we were always warned about becoming. But then, you look closer. You notice the way their shoulders are relaxed, the soft, unforced curve of their lips, and the way they seem to be watching the steam rise from their cup, as if it's the most interesting thing in the world. They don't look lonely. In fact, they look more present and grounded than the group of 4 friends at the next table who are all simultaneously staring at their own glowing screens. You've just encountered a member of a very specific, often misunderstood tribe, the sovereigns of silence. These are the individuals who aren't just okay with being alone. They are actually at their peak happiness when they are in their own company. It's a psychological phenomenon that flies in the face of everything our survival-driven, pack-oriented brains tell us about belonging. Today, I want to peel back the layers of that quiet contentment and explore what is actually happening inside the mind of someone who has turned solitude into a superpower. We live in an era that treats alone time as a consolation prize. If you aren't out doing things or building a network, you're perceived as falling behind. But for the people we're talking about, the crowd isn't where they find energy. It's where they spend it, often at an exorbitant interest rate. This brings us to a fascinating paradox. These individuals are often deeply empathetic and socially skilled, yet they possess what we might call analog souls in a digital hive. They are the bridge generation of the mind, capable of navigating the high-speed demands of modern social life, while secretly yearning for the tangible, slow-moving depth of a past they might not even have lived through. They feel a strange nostalgia for a time when silence wasn't something you had to schedule in a meditation app, but a natural part of the day. For them, being alone isn't about an absence of people. It's about a presence of self. It's the difference between a void and a vessel. While most people see an empty room and feel an urge to fill it with noise or scrolling, these individuals see it as a canvas. They are the psychological architects who have built a home within their own skin, and honestly, it's a pretty nice place to live. If we were to take a peek inside the prefrontal cortex of a person who thrives in solitude, we'd find a very different neurochemical landscape than that of a social butterfly. You see, for the extroverted brain, the primary currency is dopamine, the reward chemical. They get a hit of it from a new conversation, a like on a photo, or the buzz of a party. But for the person happiest in their own company, the brain is often more sensitive to acetylcholine. This is a quieter, more subtle neurotransmitter linked to deep concentration, reflection, and internal processing. While the world is screaming for their attention, their brain is whispering, "Look inward, there's a whole universe in here." It's almost as if they have a higher internal baseline. They don't need the external world to provide the spark, because their internal combustion engine is already running at a steady, efficient hum. This doesn't mean they don't like people. It just means they don't need people to regulate their own emotional temperature. They are self-thermostating. A light snort. It sounds a bit technical, I know, but think of it this way. Most people are like solar panels, needing the sun of social approval to stay powered up. These individuals? They're more like nuclear reactors. The energy comes from the core. This comfort with solitude often stems from a unique historical and economic context. Think about the world we've built over the last 20 years. We've undergone a massive shift from physical communities, neighborhoods, bowling leagues, local diners, to digital echo chambers. In this transition, we lost the slow burn of human connection and replaced it with instant gratification snippets. For those who are happiest alone, this shift triggered a defensive mechanism. They saw the frantic, anxious energy of the digital age and unconsciously decided to opt out of the attention economy. They realized that if they didn't protect their inner peace, it would be auctioned off to the highest bidder, in the form of targeted ads and outrage-baiting headlines. This is where their skeptical hopefulness comes into play. They are skeptical of the noise, yet hopeful about the quiet. They've witnessed the rise of the loneliness epidemic and realized that the cure isn't more people. It's more personhood. They understand that you can be in a room full of people and feel utterly abandoned if you haven't first made friends with the person staring back at you in the mirror. Let's talk about the default mode network, or the DMN. In neuroscience, This is the part of the brain that becomes active when we aren't focused on the outside world, when we're daydreaming, reflecting on the past, or imagining the future. For many, the DMN is a scary place. It's where anxieties live and where cringe memories from 5 years ago come to haunt you. Most people avoid their DMN by staying busy, staying loud, and staying connected. But for those who love their own company, the DMN is their playground. They have navigated those memory pathways so often that they've cleared the brush and built scenic overlooks. They don't fear their own thoughts because they've learned to observe them without being consumed by them. They understand that a thought is just a visitor, not a landlord. This level of psychological literacy allows them to experience what I call productive boredom, while others are frantically trying to kill time. See Warspaus. These individuals are letting time breathe. They know that in those moments of nothingness, Biasam Warsau, the best ideas, the deepest healings, and the most profound realizations are born. It's like waiting for the sediment in a glass of water to settle so you can finally see clearly. There is a certain authority spike that comes with this lifestyle. When you don't need anything from the crowd loses its power over you. These people are often the most authentic individuals you'll ever meet because they aren't performing for an audience. They've spent so much time in their own company that they know exactly where their boundaries are and what their values look like when no one is watching. They are these successful introverts who have figured out that their perceived weakness, their need for space, is actually their greatest competitive advantage. In a world of carbon copies, being the original version of yourself is a revolutionary act. They don't seek validation, they seek resonance. If they share a part of themselves with you, it's not because they need your approval, but because they found something beautiful in their solitude that they think you might appreciate too. It's a gift, not a transaction. Nandoan a soft sigh. I think we could all use a little more of that sovereignty in our lives, don't you? However, being happiest alone doesn't mean life is a constant state of zen. There is a specific kind of isolation that comes with this. The feeling of being an alien in a world that equates being alone with being a loser. They often have to navigate the well-meaning but suffocating check-ins from friends who can't wrap their heads around the idea that someone would choose to spend a Friday night with a book and a tea rather than at a crowded bar. They have to constantly reframe their isolation as insulation. They aren't cutting the world out. They're just making sure the world doesn't drown them out. This is where the paradox of the selective socialite comes in. They might go weeks without a major social event, but when they do show up, they are the most engaged, attentive, and present person in the room. Why? Because they aren't there out of obligation or fear of missing out. They've filled their own cup to the brim, and now they actually have something to pour out for others. As we look toward the future, this ability to be happy in one's own company is becoming more than just a personality trait. It's becoming a survival skill. As AI and automation take over the busy work of our lives, we are going to be left with a lot more time and a lot more self. Those who haven't learned to enjoy their own company will find this transition terrifying. They will keep looking for new distractions, new pings, and new ways to escape the silence. But those who have mastered the art of solitude will flourish. They are the pioneers of a new kind of mental health, one that isn't dependent on external circumstances. They are showing us that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Everything else, your career, your romances, your friendships, is just an extension of that primary bond. If that foundation is shaky, the whole house will wobble. But if you are your own best friend, then you are, quite literally, invincible. So, the next time you see that person sitting alone in the cafe, or the next time you find yourself with an empty evening in a quiet house, don't rush to fill the void. Don't reach for the phone as if it's an oxygen mask. Instead, try to lean into the silence. Notice the paradox of your own mind, the way you can feel both small and infinite at the same time. Acknowledge the digital-physical bridge and maybe choose the physical for once. One citro, the texture of paper, the warmth of the sun, the sound of your own breathing. Understand that your brain isn't broken if it wants to withdraw. It's just trying to find its baseline. You aren't lonely. You're just in the process of becoming a better companion for yourself. It's a journey that doesn't require a map or a travel partner, just a bit of curiosity and the willingness to let the steam rise from your cup. Reframing our solitude isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about becoming a sovereign, Isali Sell. It's about realizing that you are the captain of your soul and the master of your own internal weather. When you reach that point, you realize that being happiest in your own company isn't a sign of social failure. It's the ultimate sign of psychological success. It means you finally stopped running away from yourself and started walking towards something much more interesting. It's a shift from "I have to be alone" to "I get to be alone." And in that simple change of phrasing, a whole world of peace opens up. You start to see that the world isn't something you need to conquer, but something you get to witness. And that is a very beautiful place to be. What about you? Have you ever had a moment where you realized that being alone was exactly what you needed, even when the rest of the world was telling you to get out there? I'd love to hear about your solitude superpowers, or the moments when you felt most at home within yourself. Let's start a conversation in the comments. Sometimes the best way to feel connected is to share how we embrace our own quiet. If this resonated with you, consider reflecting on how you can carve out a little more sovereign time for yourself this week. You might just find that you're the best company you've ever had.